Welcome to Clock It with AD Brian, where we go beyond the box scores, past the playbooks, and straight into the boardroom. Today is a great day. You know, I get excited when we have our great guest on. But, you know, as we do traditionally, we have to thank everybody. You know, I do want to give a couple of special shout outs. I know they're watching downstairs. They're in town from the beautiful city of, I want to say Kellogg, but it's Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So I want to thank Mike, Gracie, and Luke. Thank you guys for chiming in today. But, you know, always have to pay the bills. So we have some sponsors. So our sponsors today, Scruptuals. They say, if you're happy, then we're happy. So make sure you check them out. And for all your apparel needs, call 256-337-7085. That's Scruptuals. Council Consulting Group, LLC. They're striving to position HBCUs for success in fostering academic excellence, driving innovation, and empowering students to thrive in competitive global landscape. Exactly. You have to go and check out CCG. You know, this guy, inspired by TA, he says, we don't need it to be easy. We just need it to be possible. Inspired by TA. You want to check him out too for all of your speaking needs. Let's eat. Being intentional togetherness, intentional communication, and intentional love. It's time to let's eat. The Fellowship of Faith Church. The Fellowship of Faith Church is one of the best churches I've seen around, and they have this podcast called Make Him Known Podcast. Make him known. Pastor Garner, we thank you for all that you do. He is a Pastor Troy. That's kind of funny because there's another Pastor Troy, but this is the man, Pastor Troy. We want to thank you for all that you do. Tyler Renee, Unseen Faith. Walk by faith and not by sight. If you're looking for something to motivate you, check her out. Unseen Faith by Tyler Renee. And our last sponsor is Humble Bully. They say, I ain't no bully, but don't push me. I ain't no bully, but don't push me. Humble Bully. All right. Now, I'm not going to prolong today. Today, we're clocking in with the man who sits at the center of it all. Swac Commissioner Charles McClelland. Titles don't tell the whole story. So tonight, we strip away positions and polish, and we ask, what does vision demand at this level? He has been from the halls of Prairie View, Texas Southern, now in the big chair as the Swac Commissioner. Please join me in welcoming our Commissioner, Dr. Charles McClelland. What's going on, Doc?
You got it there, AD Brian. Appreciate you having me on your show.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We thank you for coming on. This is a 15-minute show, but let me say this before I go on. This podcast is an iJag production. The opinions of this podcast are the sole opinions of It's Just a Game Sports Consulting LLC. Always got to give that disclaimer. But you know, this podcast is a 15-minute podcast. We do have some sponsors who have sponsored overtime, but typically we do 15 minutes. Doc, I have that clock up there. I will start the clock. Are you ready?
I am ready. Thank you.
All right. All right. We're going to start the clock and then we're going to start. And Doc, every week. There we go.
There you go.
All right, Commissioner. What's the personal cost of leadership when the culture you're charged with to preserve is constantly evolving?
I think there's always a cost for leadership. Just because you are in a leadership position does not necessarily designate you as being a leader. Mm-hmm. I think you have to have collaborative relationships, not only with the people in the office, but the people that you work with, athletic directors, SWAs, coaches, presidents. And I think it has to be a shared vision. And if you have a shared vision, I think the cost of effective leadership is that time and ability it takes to weave all of those fabrics into one to ensure that everybody is on the same page. The one thing that I can say personally is, when you're in a leadership position, not everyone is going to like what you do. You're not always going to have 100%
clock it
individuals. So the thing that I learned early on in my career, and I tell this story, and I was at Prairie View, we won our first basketball regular season championship in like 40 years. And I was like the guru, the best person on campus. The next year, we finished 8th. They were picketing for me to get fired, right? I learned, don't ever get too high and don't ever get too low. Don't believe everything that's positive in your press clippings and don't believe everything that's negative in your press clippings. Try to take, constructive criticism, better yourself and move on. But cost of leadership, you got to have thick skin.
You're right. You're right. So someone already said, Ms. Tish said, clock it, Commissioner, clock it. So we clocking it. You were most recently, you were on the basketball selection committee. You just chaired that the last year. Now, that was a 4 or 5 year process.
5 years.
And tell us, how did it really bode? I know how well it bode for you, being on TV and that sort of thing, but how well did it bode for our conference?
Well, that's the one thing that I wish I could take back all of the TV time. You get recognized not just in the SWAC footprint now, but nationally. But I think what that position did was gave the Southwestern Athletic Conference a tremendous amount of credibility. You're talking about a $1.2 billion entity. Right. Most people know this now, but college football playoffs, all of that revenue goes to those conferences. Nothing from a revenues perspective in football goes to the NCAA. So all of the NCAA money is derived, 93% of the NCAA money is derived from the basketball championship. So to have the commissioner of the Southwestern Athletic Conference leading that $1.3 billion enterprise where the entire association is hinged on this basketball championship gave us a level of credibility that we could never buy or never would have dreamed, because you're vetted. Everyone understands that in order to lead that process, to lead the basketball committee, you have to have checked off all of those requisite boxes that you have to be, vetted for $1.2 billion, being placed on your shoulders. And what it has led to is efficiencies within the Southwestern Athletic Conference. We now have 32 individuals that are on NCAA committees, which is a record number. When it comes to significant committees, we have been chosen to be on several of those committees, not just appointed, but chosen. So I think the biggest benefit for the conference was a great level of respect, but also a great level of legitimacy that was thrusted upon the conference as a whole, which includes presidents, athletic directors. And you talk about Quentin Ross, the chair of our presidents. He's on the Division I board, which has to make all of the decisions. And he's also on the Division I finance committee, which is a subset of the board, which means that $1.3 billion, he now has say-so on how it's spent. So it gave us credibility.
I think the one thing that we always talk about is getting a seat at the table. And people always say, if you don't have a seat at the table, you're going to be the menu. And I think what you've done has really put us at the table from a conference standpoint throughout. And I do want to give you your kudos for that, because I remember when you were at Texas Southern, and I remember, you were my colleague. And I saw the great work you done, and for the plan that you created to get us at the table has been nothing more than noteworthy. So again, I want to say thank you. Now, what motivates you when applause dies down and criticism rise?
Our students. This is about education. This is about educating students. There's a lot of things that are out there that can get you distracted, but when you know that the job that you're doing keeps these institutions afloat, and keep these institutions in a pattern of what we were founded for. We were all founded, to serve the historically underserved.
Right.
And we do that through the eyes and the windows of intercollegiate athletics. I went to Prairie View in 1989 to play basketball. Wasn't that good, right? So I went to Prairie View. The athletics program was canceled the spring of 1990. One half of the students left Prairie View, which meant one half of the formula funding left. We brought it back in 1991 as a non-scholarship sport, and that's when Prairie View lost to 80 straight football games, 30 plus basketball games. And it was impressed upon me at that time that athletics is more strategically pointed towards creating these educational opportunities than any other entity within the university, including academics. People want to be a part of that culture. People want to be a part of what that university brings, the pageantry, the history. So the more that we do, the more that we expand, the more opportunities we have to change lives, change society. So the criticism is going to come, like I talked about earlier. 100% of the people are not going to like you. That's just a part of being in a leadership position. But when you look and see student athletes walk across the stage, when you know that you're created nationally televised audiences and students get drafted because of that, the relationships that you have with NFL and NBA and MLB, the relationships that you develop with NCAA, and you're seeing individuals becoming engineers and lawyers and doctors, and they're coming back making a positive impact on their society. That is what drives me, and that is what motivates me.
That's clock it right there. Now, I know you've heard that some schools can do without athletics. What is your take on that in our ecosystem, in the HBCU ecosystem? Can really sports can that be eliminated?
Well, I don't think sports can be eliminated. One of these things, being on the Division I basketball committee, it's thrusted me to have to go to Capitol Hill. I've talked to several senators. I've talked to several representatives. I had opportunity to do a panel with Nick Saban, and we're tied in with the SEC and the autonomy conferences on trying to get certain legislative things passed. And the one thing that I talked about is HBCUs are as important, in a lot of instances, more important today than they were when they were founded back in the 1850s, 1860s, and the 1870s. And the sports are, again, equally important. The opportunities that we provide through intercollegiate athletics for those individuals that probably won't get an opportunity to go to community college, right? We still have about, across our 12-member institutions, 70% first generation college participants, which means that they are the first to go around 70%. There's still over 80% that are on some form of financial aid. And when you look at our student athletes, those statistics bear the same for non-athletes and athletics. But what we do from an athletic standpoint, which is the same thing that we do at our institutions, we take the historically underserved, because it is a social economic issue. Our lack of education is social economic. It's not from an intelligent standpoint. So athletics creates those pathways and those windows for those individuals to come in, whether it's at a HBCU or an autonomy conference. Rice get waivers.
Yeah.
So student athletes can come in and perform. That is the power of athletics. But again, the lives that are changed. And this is not just about football and basketball. This is about tennis. This is about track. This is about creating those opportunities that normally would not be there for our student athletes, but focusing specifically on HBCUs. Not only athletics is as important as it was when we started in the 1920s. The HBCUs are even now more relevant and prevalent, because in this new era of DEI, where they're going to go, they're going to come to us, and we have to be there to serve.
And we have to be ready, and that's clock it. And I'm gonna tell you, one of the things that is that I'm excited about, and as you say, is more relevant now, is this Swac TV. Commissioner, everyone has been hearing about this Swac TV. This is big time for the conference. I'm excited to be a part of it, and I know this has been a vision, I think, for you prior to you even becoming a commissioner. And I remember conversations, and I was at another institution prior, and that was 8-9 years ago, to see this thing come to fruition. Please tell us about Swac TV and the benefits of Swac TV.
Well, there are three words that I use to talk about it. The first word is significant, and then the second and third word is a game changer. As you talked about, it took us a while to get here. What we did not want to do early was just haphazardly put things out there. So we invested, we made sure that we did things the correct way. We had the technology, we learned the industry, and now we've launched Swac TV, which is going to be everything, all things Swac. You know, quite simply put, I did not feel that the outside sources properly valued what Swac brought to the table. We've led FCS attendance 48 of the last 49 years now. We have 6 games that have over 60,000 people in the stands. If you go and put around 30,000 people in the stands, we're like 2025. Yeah. We have the Miami Herald to describe the SWAC as the Black College SEC. Our sports are that important. Our fans are that engaged. And what we felt was the numbers that we were seeing from a viewership standpoint on our various platforms, we were not getting compensated in the manner in which we thought we should. And it was an uphill struggle. Now, they had their reasons, we had ours. Well, Swac TV, and we had to go through a lot of contractual things in order to get rights back and the ability to do what we are starting to do this fall. But Swac TV allows us to basically determine our own net value. It puts our games on our network, and it's not just going to be football and basketball. It's going to be all sports. But more importantly, schools such as Alabama A&M have a very robust internal network. What this is going to allow them to do is to put their games on our network. Paul, you can still go out, and all of the sponsors that are on this podcast, all of the sponsors that are with Alabama A&M, now will be able to be shown on Swac TV when we have over 1 million people watching. This is one of the statistics that I was extremely proud of. Over our digital networks with our TV partner and what we were doing on Swac Digital Network, there was 42 million minutes watched. For those of you that don't know what that means, that is highly significant. There's that word again, significant. So we have a lot of entities and individuals that have reached out to us once they heard about this and wanting to be a part of it. But it basically puts everything Swac. We're going to have some game day shows, right? We're working on that. We're going to have halftime shows. We're going to have features. We're going to have all 18 sports. And this is going to have to expand. This is going to have to evolve. But we're starting off with 45 football games. We'll announce our basketball slate. We're going to have baseball games on, softball games on. We're going to have all championships. We're going to have tennis, which we don't normally cover on this. And we're going to have track from a full perspective. And we're going to have golf as well. So this is going to give us the platform and the opportunity to show all of our athletes, to show them on a national basis. It's a free platform, high definition, 1080, first quality, and the revenue that we have projected through our experts. We paid the money. We got outside consultants. We had outside lawyers. The revenue that is anticipated to come in over the next 3 to 5 years, and it's going to take that long to get us to where we think we need to be, will put us on a different level than Swac has ever seen. And that's about as much I can say about the revenue. But it's going to catapult us if we do the things we're supposed to do.
Like it. So, see, when you talk about visionary, when you talk about the things that are needed for the SWAC conference to be more significant and even more relevant and to be that power conference, That's what we needed right there, is that Swac TV. I know I have to ask one last question, and I know that time is going to go
We're
up.
in overtime, right?
Yeah.
But shout out to you. I'm sponsor oriented. Shout out to the overtime sponsors.
Yes. So the question I have is, you were a proponent of every school. There it is. You were a proponent of every school opting into the house settlement.
Yes.
Tell us why and the significance of that.
Well, one, we have always been on the same page, and we will continue to be on the same page. And I think that's a message that all of the fans and everyone that's listening ultimately needs to know. And as one school is moving forward, you know, I go back to my Prairie View days. Prairie View was really, really down, right? It's cyclical, and we have to make sure that we rise all boats. To be able to pay student athletes in the name, image, and likeness era, whether you can afford to or not, needs to exist for all 12 of our member institutions. And we have an internal plan in the Southwestern Athletic Conference to help generate revenue so all 12 can pay. But to not have opted in and not to even have the option means that you're going to get out recruited, and which means that you're going to get left even further behind. And the only way that the conference is going to be able to grow is for us to continue to grow together. I tell this brief story. I'm on an NCAA committee, and we were meeting at that particular time in Orlando. And when that was announced from our media outlets, I was with the NCAA president, Charlie Baker. He came and congratulated me. And he said, "Charles, this is a really big deal for the SWAC to do so." Now, he didn't expand, but what I took from it was, if the SWAC can do it, it really sets the tone nationally. And for the NCAA president to say that the SWAC is on the forefront and the cutting edge of leading, policy and change in, this new structure, was something that has been recognized at the highest level. And that's who we've always been, leaders and shakers in this industry. So it was recognized at the highest level within the NCAA. But again, in order for you to be able to compete in this environment, you're going to have to be able to do the same things everyone else is doing. And I talked about scale, right? Yep. $10 million in the SEC is about $100,000 in the Southwestern Athletic Conference when it comes to that level of benefit. What it's going to cost to get a quarterback in the SWAC, I don't know. But the market is going to determine that. And then what we wanted to do was to make sure that we were the market. So all 12 is opted in. You're going to have this quarterback. People are going to try to get that quarterback there, or that track, or that volleyball player, and the market is going to determine that. And then we set the market. We continue to increase revenues, i.e. SWAC TV, putting it back into the institutions, and then we create this league to make it strong and strong and stronger. And that was the overall goal and objective of opting in.
Yes, sir. Man, clock it. Okay, Doc, I think this is so significant, and this is truly my last question. When you took over at the SWAC, tell us, how much did we have in reserve? What did we owe on the building, or did we have a building? And you tell us where we are right now today.
Well, when we took over SWAC, we were about $2 million in deficit. There were no reserves, and we were actually renting. We now have a building on the outskirts of downtown in the UAB area. The value of the building has actually doubled since the time we purchased it, but we have paid the building off. We have a robust reserve. I'm not going to tell you that exact amount. And I can tell you that our budget is 5 times now what it was when I took over in 2018. Without giving specific numbers, you can go out. People have already pulled the 990. I've seen the social media. One thing that I will tell you, that those that are looking at the 990, we're on a cash basis. So there was about $3 more million of revenue that was generated in that fiscal year, but it was booked in the next fiscal year because we were on a cash basis, not on an accrual basis. So we're doing about $23 to $25 million a year.
Well, I have to say,
which is the most of any FCS conference.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Now, Doc, I think that's more than any other FCS conference.
It is.
So I wanted everyone to hear it from the commissioner himself. We were in a deficit. His plan, and I remember him presenting that plan to the committee. Again, I was a part of the hiring process and knowing what was happening and what was coming. I got to say thank you. And I wrote this little thing out. It says, in a conference where legacy walks side by side with uncertainty, leadership isn't about applause. It's about alignment. Charles McClelland didn't dodge today. He clocked in. If we want the future we say we deserve, it won't come from hope. It'll come from strategy, sacrifice, and maybe a few uncomfortable truths. So with that being said, Dr. McClelland, I want to thank you. Thank you for being a part of this Clock It. This is a platform where we just keep it real and talk about some of the things that a lot of people won't. But again, you all know what it is. You know, I enjoy you guys coming and being a part of this platform, but you must subscribe. Go to all of our social media channels and subscribe. And remember, it's just a game. So be humble, stay humble, but most importantly, be your best. God bless. Good night. Peace.
Rio.